Alright, today we're going to take a look at simplifying radicals. And let's take a look at these first few. These ones should be easy. These are square roots of 25, 36, and 196. So what numbers can I multiply together to get 25? 5 and 5. So the square root of 25 is 5. Square root of 36 is 6. And the square root of 196 is 14. Now let's talk about cube roots. So what number can I multiply by itself 3 times to get any of these values? Pause the video and see if you can figure it out. Alright, so the cube root of 216, I believe, is 8, because 8 times 8 times 8 is, that one's 512. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125, so the cube root of 125 is 5. And the cube root of 216 is 6. Alright, let's look at these ones. So the first one is the fourth root of 6 to the 4th power. So the fourth root means I have something to the 1/4 power. So if I would take away that fourth root, I would have 6 to the 4th power raised to the 1/4 power. So what happens with the 4 and the 1/4 is I get 6 to the 4 over 4, which essentially is just 6. So when you have a root and a number underneath the root that are the same, they cancel each other out. So 9 to the 1/2 power, if you think about the last one where we made the root 4 into 1/4, so a 1/2 power would be the square root of 9, which would be 3. And then the 1/3 power would be the cubed root of 27, which would be 3. Alright, let's talk about radicals that have numbers underneath that don't come out as perfect squares. So 80 can be broken up into 2 factors. 80 can be broken up into 2 and 40. It can be broken up into 4 and 20. Think about numbers that go into 80 evenly. So I think the largest would be 16 and 5. 16 times 5 gives me 80. And I was looking for numbers that are perfect squares. So 16 is a perfect square. If I take the square root of 16, I get 4. But I'm going to leave 5 underneath. So if I'm simplifying the square root of 80, it would be 4 root 5. That's how you read that. You don't read it as 4 square root 5. You read it as 4 root 5. So when I look at 50, right away, I think 25. So the square root of 25 times 2 would be equal to 50. And the square root of 25 is 5. And the square root of 2 is not a whole number, so we leave it underneath, so I would read that as 5 root 2. The next example is a little bit tougher because I put a variable underneath, but I did on purpose put a variable that was to the 2nd power. So the square root of x squared would just be x. And then I would have underneath still 75. But 25 times 3 is 75. So I would get 5x root 3. 25, and if I take the square root, I get 5. Let's look at a little bit harder example. So if I take the square root of 16, I get 4. That comes out perfectly. U to the 4th power, so think about it. It would be u to the 4 over 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this would be u squared. And then v can be broken up as v squared times v. So the square root of v squared would come out as v, and underneath I would have just one v left. So it would be 4u squared v root v. Next example, 28x cubed y cubed. So if I expand this out, and I think of numbers that go into 28 that make perfect squares, I would think of 7 times 4 because 4 is a perfect square. Then I would have times x squared times x times y squared times y. So I can take the square root of 4, that comes out as 2. Okay? I can take the square root of x squared and y squared, they come out as x and y. And what am I left with underneath is 7xy. Alright, let's take a look at this example. There's already a negative 2 on the outside, so whatever I pull out, I'm going to have to multiply by negative 2. So I have negative 2, and underneath the square root, I think of 48, and the factors of 48, I know 4 goes in, but 16 also goes in. So 48 can be factored into 16 and 3. And then a squared times a times b to the 4th times c squared. So when I pull this out, I'm at negative 2. And then I can pull out 16 as 4. So I'd be multiplying that by negative 2 then. A squared would come out as a, b to the 4th would come out as b squared, c squared would come out as c. What's left underneath is everything that I didn't underline, 3a. So I didn't need that square root to be that long. Now I'm not quite done simplifying because on the outside I can do negative 2 times 4. That gives me negative 8. So I'd have negative 8 ab squared c root 3a.